hear how this thing sounds without ears. All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of America, thanks for tuning in. Today we are bringing you a gun that I've had some personal interest in for a while now, and that is largely because I love AKs, and I have a real affinity right now and love for subguns. It's kind of an emerging thing for me. I feel like the subgun market is a booming business right now, and there's a lot of good options and a lot of good interesting things out there. And this is you know, amongst our first ventures into the subgun space. So we'll have some interesting stuff coming, but we'll get into this bad boy as we go here. Before we jump into all that, you came here for a reason. You clicked on the video because you thought you might like it, and we hope that you do. And if you do, we hope maybe you consider subscribing to the channel. I know it's a commitment. I know it's a commitment because a couple times a week we're going to have a video pop up and you're going to have to be like, you know, I got to sit down, have a glass of bourbon at night and watch the 1911 Syndicate. But we hope that you do that, okay? That's the deal. We hope that you do it. If you're new here, if you're new around these parts of town and you don't really know what the hell the 1911 Syndicate is, believe it or not, behind all of this, we are a real estate company, which is going to be very odd and confusing, but the more videos you watch, the more you'll just start to accept it as reality. Most of our clients are military and law enforcement and shooters and hunters, and they like to do the same kind of wild stuff that we like to do. And just makes sense, well, let's do some business together. So if you need to buy, sell a house, pretty largely, no matter what part of the country you're in, just let us know and we'll see if we can help. We operate in a lot of different states, which you can go find on our website that we'll have linked below. And if your area is not on there, reach out. We'll shoot you straight. We'll tell you if we can help. And if we can't, we'll say we can't. You know, pretty straightforward. Beyond all that, if our Patreon is up and running at this point, you know, just consider it. If you really are like, I like this channel and what these guys are doing, just consider it. You know, it's a couple bucks a month or whatever the hell that we put it at. So just consider it, you know, all that good stuff. I think we're doing some apparel now and yada, yada, yada. So, you know, we appreciate whatever support you want to wind up kicking our way. But today, we are going to talk about the Kalashnikov USA KR9. A gun that, as I stated before, I've had some interest in a while. I will tell you this, I've had very, very little time with this gun. This is an SBR, as you will notice, and this gun was transferred to my SOT about a day ago. So I have very, very little time behind the gun, very little experience with it. So we should really call this what it is. It's more of a first impressions kind of, you know, hot take, if you will, versus a more in-depth review that we would normally do. But I will also tell you this, I don't know Kalashnikov USA. Not true. We were on the phone for about 30 seconds together before they were kind of, you know, politely suggested they'd probably really not be on that call with me anymore. So I don't have any connections to Kalash USA. This was nice enough to be loaned out to me for the purposes of the review, and for the folks who did that, I do appreciate it. It will be back in your hands shortly. So no real allegiance anywhere here, and yeah, that said, let's get into this thing. Okay, everyone, so let's get into this thing. This is going to be a relatively wing it kind of review because, again, got the gun like a day ago and really wanted to be able to squeeze it in today. That way I could get it back to its rightful owners. So this is going to probably be a little more brief and a little more free flow than normal here. So what do we got? So Kalashnikov USA KR9. SBR, as previously discussed. Hit a couple bullet points just that say a 15 to 20 rounder. That would be super ideal. The biggest issue you're going to run into with this, as this being more of like a backpack gun or some sort of PDW that you could have in a, you know, discrete package, whatever that may be, is the mag length. It just extends way past the gun. Not that that's anything unusual. Most sub guns, that's going to be pretty consistent across the board. But if you could hack that mag down to about half the length, to about a 15 to 20 round mag, man, you could really get that gun in a very nice discreet bag, and it would be a hell of a truck gun, backpack gun, something like that. And then you could, of course, if you had time, throw on your suppressor. Triangle side folder, are they the most comfortable thing in the world? Not really, but look, especially on a 9mm gun, is it going to bother you? No, not at all. Do I have significant levels of, you know, padding on today, just given the weather? Yes, but again, the recoil impulse on this is fairly light. It's not mind-blowingly light. I wouldn't say it's just going to blow your hair back how soft shooting it is, but it's definitely not, you know, it's not going to beat you up either, to say the least. So despite the side triangle folder not having any padding on it, really not a big deal. The grip. So the grip, you know, could it be better? Sure. Could it be worse? Probably. The only reason I say that, there's just zero texture on it whatsoever. Completely smooth grip. I'd ideally like to have a little bit more of a vertical grip angle, especially on something that's more of a PDW subgun type thing that could be used in a closer range. I would just like to have a slightly more vertical angle on that grip. Can this be swapped out? It can. I mean, I can look at it and tell you it can be swapped out. What is it compatible with? Don't know. You're going to have to do some homework on that, but I could tell you if I was buying this, that grip would probably be one of the first things to go. Let's just hit the trigger. I will say this because I know the owners of this gun as well, and again, just kind of tracking all over the place, but the gun certainly does not get cleaned often, and it certainly gets suppressed a lot. So it is very frequently, almost I would say exclusively suppressed, and does not get cleaned often. So point being to that, it is cold, kind of shitty weather out here today. The gun is extremely dirty, not lubed up, and with or without can running just fine. Okay, so that should tell you something about the reliability of it. I have no reason to think this is anything but very reliable. After all, it is on an AK platform. Something we should have started with, but again, we're just kind of fishing all over the place today. Really what you've got here is the American variant of the submachine gun that's used by all of the Russian military and police. So basically the subgun of the Russian military and law enforcement agencies is going to be just their in-house, you know, in-country version of this. This is just the American equivalent of it. So just know, hey, if you're ever in Russia and they're about to, you know, raid a building and they got subguns, basically that's identical to what they've got. Let's take a look kind of quickly here at the trigger. The trigger is, it's like an AK trigger. It's at the very least, it's a very distinct wall. Like you've got a, you know, you have very distinct amount of take up. You hit a very distinct wall there, and then, you know, it's not bad. It's not bad. It's certainly going to be a very well worn in trigger at this point, so it's going to have that going for it. It's probably going to be quite a bit better now than it would be out of the box. It's not bad. It's an AK trigger. You know, if you shoot AKs, if you're used to Geisley triggers in an AR and you pick this up, you'd be like, this trigger is shit. And if you're used to AK triggers, you pick this up and you'd be like, yeah, it's about right. You know, so take that for what it is based on your experience level. There you go. The safety, about my only critique of the safety. So it's obviously not an ambidextrous safety. And yeah, it's a little odd in the sense that, so I never really understand this. So if you look at Krebs Custom, for example, Krebs makes a good ambi safety that can be used by obviously lefty or righties, but Krebs, and I'm sure other companies as well, make an AK safety where, hey, look, the problem with this safety is that, hey, this is how a righty would run the gun, right? So the idea is that this finger would be flipping down the safety. Well, the problem, I mean, so that's where my grip would naturally be. You can see where my finger goes. And I have fairly long, skinny, lanky hands, you know? So I've got like a somewhat long finger, and I'm not even really close to reaching that thing. So you'd really have to completely break your grip to come up here. I mean, literally, I would have to, that's how I would have to work my grip in order to manipulate that safety. My point being to that is I would throw something like a Krebs custom safety on it, which is just gonna have basically a little notch that's gonna hang out right about here, just on a little extension. That way you can index that point and actually have a good master grip without having to break your grip in order to manipulate your safety. So safety, not exactly a strong point for me. And on a, you know, these run like $1,200 at the very least. That's the MSRP. Some people, for whatever reason, get upset when I quote MSRPs versus like the street price. I'm like, well, I'm not on the like, how am I supposed to know what the street price is all the time? You know, it's like you can't even find the shit in stock half the time. Everyone relax, right? The MSRP is $1,200. At $1,200, I would like to see a better safety. That's just me personally. I just hit my car lock and I heard my truck lock from a long way away. Anyway, we've got a top Picatinny rail here. That's good, which can be hit and miss depending on the AK if you're gonna have that built in. So that is nice. That way you can mount an optic. Yeah, you're really not gonna get anything else on that. Obviously, if we just kind of move forward of that, looking at the handguard here, obviously you're not gonna have rails or anything like that. Can you swap that out? There's no reason that you shouldn't be able to. By comparison, like if you look at the PSA, they're, I can't remember the model number, but basically their equivalent of this, their AK9, theirs does have some options for rails. I like that. I would assume have that. That way, especially on something that's probably gonna be used at closer ranges, I would like the ability to be able to run a light on this. So again, is it a huge deal? Not really, but at $1,200, I would like to see some ability to mount lights or IR devices or whatever you guys want on this. So this is, you know, this is just, you know, it's just plastic, just plastic. Do I have, son of a bitch, this, whatever, just, I don't have anything against plastic. I would just rather see some rails on this. The iron sights are fine. They're AK iron sights. Do you need me to say anything more than that? I mean, they're just fucking, they're AK iron sights, you know? There's really nothing to talk about there. 9¼ inch barrel. Haven't pushed distance with this just because of, you know, locations and different things today. I've been shooting, you know, 50 yards in with this today, so really can't give you much in the way of a real accuracy comparison there, especially as it would compare to other subguns, whether it be B&Ts or MP5s or whatever it might be. So yeah, let's just kind of, you know, come to the exciting finale here, which is opinion on this. I mean, I'm really forming this on the spot, so you guys are kind of getting the raw, real deal here. It is fine. It is, to shoot it suppressed, definitely a lot of gas going to be coming back in your face. If you're doing somewhere in the neighborhood of like a bill drill, right? If you're sending half a dozen rounds, you're probably going to start to feel it. Again, keep in mind, I am a lefty, so this is where my face is sitting in relation to the ejection port. So I catch all kinds of nice, pleasant gases back in my face there. After 10 rounds in fairly quick succession, my eyes are starting to get a little burn, little water there. So just keep that in mind. To answer one question, I do not know if this has the K&S piston in it. I don't know if this is just well-tuned and works well with the AKs or if it has been adjusted. So caveat to that, information I don't know off the top of my head. But my impression is it's fine. I would not say it's mind-blowing. I don't think it really moved the needle in either direction for me. I think it feels very much like an AK that's just a little bit soft, you know, just soft in comparison to, you know, 7.62 or something like that. It's pretty cool. I would say, who's it for? I'd say it's for people that are looking for a subgun PDW style weapon, but they don't want an AR9 or, you know, the MP5s or the different things, MPXs, things like that. They are an AK guy, but they're looking for the subgun route, in which case, phenomenal. I would like to shoot it in comparison to the PSA equivalent, just because I think they, at the very least visually, they have some cool ones. So I would be curious to know how it compares to that. Yes, I have reached out to PSA. No, I have not heard back. So all good. I guess they're busy. But I would like to know that comparison, just because at $1,200, I would love to know, well, what is the competitive equivalent from another company to this? So not mind-blowing, certainly not bad. I'd say it's about what I expected, which is it's good, it's functional, it seems reliable. I can't really find anything wrong with it, minus some modifications I would like to see at a $1,200 price point. So take that for what it's worth, which I would say is not particularly much. I would say this is a below average video for us, but nature of the deal. You get the gun a day ago and you got to do a quick turnaround. You do what you can. So it looks freaking cool. A little shorty AK with a can on it looks freaking cool. So it's got that going for it. All right, everyone. Hope you have a good rest of your week, whatever day this comes out, and we will see you shortly.